McCall has hit out at cancel culture, saying it's unforgiving to punish celebrities for views that they have held in the past and then gone on to apologise for.
Yeah, she was speaking with Rylan on his reunion podcast, but does saying sorry mean that all is forgiven? Joined now by comedian Kearse, who totally agrees with Davina, and lawyer Dr Shola Mos-shogbamimu, who says that people need to demonstrate that they have changed and not just say sorry. Good to have both of you with us this morning. Leo, let's start with you, because the world of comedy is a tricky one, isn't it? Lots of comedians saying these days they're very nervous about making the jokes that in the past they would have been comfortable saying because they're worried about getting cancelled. Have you ever experienced any of that?
Oh, yeah, of course. I mean, I've experienced cancel culture. I've had shows cancelled. I was pulled from my venue, cancelled me at the Australian Fringe. And, yeah, I think it's terrible. A lot of the times it's misunderstanding on the part of the people doing the cancelling. And also, you know, people are getting cancelled for tweets that they sent, you know, 12 years ago. And people change, people move on, but also society changes. The things that are acceptable to say in society change. You can see that with people like J.K. Rowling. You know, 10 years ago, she was the darling of the woke left, and now she's this pariah. So I think people need to understand that, you know, if we're cancelling people for things that they said 12 years ago because society changes and what's acceptable changes, what are people saying now that's going to be unacceptable in 12 years' time from now?
Do you think, Leo, you have a responsibility to go back and, especially if you're in the public eye and if you're going to do something like you are doing now and you're standing up and entertaining people, you have a responsibility to go back and look at some of the things that you've said to make sure that, you know, you have apologised or you're clear that that's not who you are now?
No, I mean, anybody that's digging up tweets from 12 years ago clearly has an agenda to harm someone, to cancel them. Nobody's looking at tweets from 12 years ago unless they're digging through, like some sort of offence archaeologist, to find something that they can use to damage that person. And I think it's having a really damaging effect on entertainment and discourse in society. So people are really watching what they say and they're fearful and they're being very careful. The paranoia is leading to self-censorship in comedy and in the arts and just in everyday life. When you're talking to someone or when you're saying something on social media, people have to be so careful that they don't say something that could be misconstrued as offensive now or offensive in 10 years' time.
Well, lawyer Dr Shola Mos-shogbamimu, let me do that again. Okay. Dr Shola, you say your surname, because I'm useless this morning.
OK, so read it phonetically. I'm not going to let you get away with that. Read it phonetically. OK, I'm going to give it a go. Mos-shogbamimu. Well done.
Thank you very much.
Off your tongue.
Thank you very much. By the way, I also stumble like that over Smith. So, you know, it's nothing to do with anything else. I just struggle to get my words out most mornings. So is there an argument to say that part of growing up and growing older is that your views get informed and they change? And something that you said in the past, now that we have social media where things get written down and shared so widely, may not represent you now, so therefore you should be forgiven for holding those views if you've changed your mind?
Well, let me first of all start by saying that expressions of hate are not a product of any given time. They are past, present, future, and continuous manifestation of hate, which is why they still exist today. So people who partake of them in any form are reinforcing that hate. Good people are capable of doing bad things and bad people are capable of doing good things. That is called being human. Forgiveness is good, but forgiveness does not absolve you of consequences. Consequences are a direct result of your actions. And let me tell you who suffers the real consequences. The person who suffers the real consequences is the person who is targeted by that remark or by that action. So let's just think it through. Why is it so difficult for people to accept that in life, consequences are actually a fact of life? It's not cancellation. They existed, consequences existed long before the anti-woke mob decided to mischaracterize it as cancel culture in order to maintain the status quo of social and racial injustice. When Boris Johnson, just a few years ago, when he referred to Muslim women in their burkas and niqabs as letterboxes and even compared them to armed robbers, Islamophobia went up by 375% the week after. Just think about that for a second. So whether it was said 10 years ago, 20 years ago, it was hate. It was wrong then, and it is wrong now. Do I believe people can change? Heck yes, of course they can. But listen, if apology was all that was required, we would not have prisons. If consequences were taken seriously, then somewhere along the line of Boris Johnson's 50-odd years on this God's earth may have changed him. Maybe we would have ended up with a prime minister who's not a pathological liar and who's ticked all kinds of boxes of expressions of hate, Islamophobia, racism, all of that.
I get you.
Just think about it for a second. There are people who are experiencing real consequences. Those people matter. Anybody who is saying the consequences borne by the person who's committed the act or said the words is more egregious than the person who is experiencing the targeted hate, for me, as far as I'm concerned, that's irresponsible and reprehensible.
No, I get you, and you're right. Consequences, we used to say before cancel culture, didn't we? We used to say that's karma, didn't we? That there are things that come back at you for what you've done. Now, if we try and now move forward then and navigate ourselves through a world which, you know, didn't have this kind of social media in the past, so that young people, you know, use it and don't realise perhaps the consequences, what things, you know, the point that you made, what things now are going to be a problem in the future? Because we are evolving, aren't we? And I think that's the point you're making, isn't it, Leo? That, you know, that if we look back and times have changed, what's going to be the problem in the future? What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we saw it with J.K.
Sorry, I'll just let Shola, if I may,
saw it with
just answer
J.K.
that
Rowling.
first.
All right, sorry, yeah.
Yes,
Cool.
apologies, Leo.
Okay, so what has evolved is how much more visible and much more vocal people are being in speaking out against these expressions of hate. The expression of hate itself has not evolved. It's the same thing. Anti-Semitism exists in the same form as it did 100 years ago, 10 years ago. Racism exists in the same form. Islamophobia exists in the same form. Misogyny exists in the same form. The only thing that you're seeing very different is that when people bring this onto platforms that we have today, like social media, more people are emboldened to say, that's wrong, you shouldn't do that. I think young people today, when they're thinking through what they have to do and what they should say, they already know it's wrong, because even a 10-year-old who uses a bad word knows that it's a bad word, even though they may not fully understand the import of their words. Take a look at someone like Azim Rafiq. When he owned up to his anti-Semitic remarks, he did not excuse it. He didn't shy away or say he shouldn't suffer consequences. In fact, what he did was to move forward to actually go beyond just beyond an apology. And he took this step publicly to demonstrate his contrition. He engaged with the Jewish community, letting people see his own personal journey of unpicking his learning. Now, he didn't have to do that publicly, but I think for somebody who is in the public eye, that was a good thing to do. And you see that the Jewish community embraced them, because look, those who are targeted by hate, what we all want is for everybody to be able to grow and learn together. We will have differences, absolutely. We will make mistakes along the way, absolutely. But when you're ready to get up and you want to embrace and you want to learn, then get ready to be humble. Get ready to show real contrition. Apology is just not enough. You have to be able to change your behavior, unpick your learning, and do that in a way that people will see.
OK, Leo?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Shola talks about hate. Like, I don't see offhand comments, jokes that are misconstrued. I mean, Boris Johnson said that he thought that women in burkas look like letterboxes. That's not an expression of hate. It's just a visual gag, because they've got they look a bit like letterboxes. It's not a hateful thing. The only hate that I can see is from the people doing the cancelling.
I'm sorry,
who are destroying people's lives based on little, offhand jokes, some tweet from 12 years ago. So they dig back, they hound on them like a public execution. They destroy people's lives. Lawrence Fox and his entire acting career destroyed over expressing a perfectly reasonable opinion. I think the cancel culture is poisonous, it's invidious, it's changing our culture. It's making people fearful of expressing what they want to express.
Let's just let Dr. Shola respond.
This is unacceptable, Leo. Your words are utterly reprehensible. That you have the audacity to come on national TV and reinforce the ugly words said by Lawrence Fox, the ugly words said by Boris Johnson, acting like the lives of those Muslim women are less important than a privileged man who was given the keys to the kingdom.
So why is it okay to use gammon to refer to a middle-aged white man? Why is saying gammon okay? Because of the red cheeks. Why is Boris Johnson's comment racist and calling someone a gammon isn't racist?
Of Muslim women was wrong. Okay. They were abused on the street. They were attacked. Their ordinary lives were negatively impacted, and you sit there with the audacity.
I don't believe that Britain is the cesspool of hatred and racism that you're painting it as. I think you're painting. You're building a straw man argument. I think Britain is a very tolerant and a very loving place and a very accepting place.
Unfortunately, Leo and Dr. Shola, we are out of time. We have strict break restrictions at this stage.
Yeah.
But thank you very much for your thoughts this morning. It's clearly a very, very emotive subject. That was comedian Leo Kearse and lawyer Dr. Shola Mos-shogbamimu with their thoughts.